Worldwide, all visual media is now ruled by entertainment. And there is a reason for why the factual documentary genre is ranked the least popular amongst all film genres. Aside from the minority of those who are keenly interested in factual programs, for the majority of television viewers, factual programs on climate change are simply not interesting enough. We in the West are utterly spoiled by media entertainment that has now become strategically perfected. Whether it is reality TV shows or high-end studio productions, we are dealing with a quality of desirable entertainment that far exceeds the popularity of today's factual media. It is not enough that we jazz up our latest climate change productions with stylish music and flashy MTV-style editing. If we are to be honestly realistic about reaching our modern viewers, a higher entertainment device must be incorporated into our storytelling. It now ought to be the priorities of all major factual networks to make climate change in our media a copyright-free zone, in order to make it affordable for public broadcasters in our developing nations to air high-end productions on this subject. But even if such a step was permitted by the miraculous absence of network lawyers, this would win only half of our global battle for public awareness. For the number one problem that we currently face is the fact that climate change has now become a tired issue for many, particularly in the West, and thus a fresh new storytelling perspective is now requisite in order to re-inspire. Since most of our major factual networks made the calculated decision based upon ratings to no longer report on the scarier aspects of climate change science, apparently regarded as too negative, alarmist, and doom and gloom, all future network programs on this subject are to focus only on the solutions, apart from some simple sound bites to provide context. In my opinion, if we are to truly counter the influences of popular skepticism, sound bites and solution facts are insufficient. It is a grave error to assume that the basic science has been covered. There are still billions who are being left in the dark about all the science. And when the majority has such false impressions and doubt, pure influence affects us all. What other than scientific explanation can tell us, for example, how the extra water that is evaporated off our lands and oceans creates such levels of atmospheric moisture that if storm conditions were to make it fall as rain in the summer, it is heavy enough to denude entire mountain ranges or vegetation. And if the same carried moisture were to fall as snow in the winter, the vast mass of resulting ice is enough to cause record low temperatures throughout the region. Just that simple explanation alone, accompanied by some graphics, will serve to clear up so many of the misconceptions that we have about the workings of climate change. The same exact thing goes for that popular theory about the sun that has helped make climate change an absolute non-issue for millions worldwide. We cannot leave our public perception of our crisis as it is and simply wish for the best. It's not that they don't believe it's going to happen. It's that they don't believe it's going to be that bad. Even among those of us who are aware, our current projections of our future are mainly based upon climate models which have yet to factor in the colossal reciprocal feedback cycles that are currently in motion, which threatens to heat up our climate at an exponential rate. As an example of the kind of mandatory facts that our societies ought to understand, our core reality is this. Ancient CO2, responsible for a climate that was tens of degrees above our own, was eventually absorbed into the cells of every single plant that ever existed on Earth, which was gradually buried beneath the ground in the form of coal, oil, natural gas, and soil over the course of the last 500 million years since plant life evolved. There have been periods in Earth's history when vast quantities of this safely sequestered CO2 was released back into the Earth's atmosphere due to volcanic activities and the shifting of tectonic plates. The largest mass extinction that we ever had, 250 million years ago, which wiped out 95% of all planetary life, was caused by runaway global warming, initially began by the burning of a vast bed of coal which just happened to be on top of a giant lava-spreading volcano. But today, this hazardous ancient carbon it's been systematically burned on a scale that is impossible to replicate by nature, unless massive volcanoes were to coincidentally erupt from beneath virtually every coal, oil, and natural gas reserve that existed on this planet over the span of the last century. And thus climate change is now occurring at a rate many times faster than anything that has been recorded by our ancient markers. Clear, vital knowledge of this type is often empowering enough to make people immune to skeptic theories about climate change that is now spreading throughout our world like wildfire. The skeptic arguments are moronically simple and can be easily debunked with equally simple facts. CO2 is an essential gas which all life depends upon. Yes, and so is oxygen. But if we had too much of that good thing, all our world's forests would burn to the ground with a single match. Why take action when we can adapt? Wow, where shall we begin? While thousands of logical, misdispelling facts waste to be provided daily to our public, our current media is still a million miles behind the science, and their debate formats still provides more airtime to the skeptics, who are highly skilled at promoting our inaction. As responsible journalism and properly researched news is rapidly replaced by our cheap and popular blogosphere, television news networks have little choice but to follow in this stupefying trend and report more about what is discussed by internet bloggers than anything that is based upon actual science. And of course, when the viewers don't get the difference, those skeptic rumors are given a higher platform to circulate even further. It is only when those central climate links are fully and easily understood, and our current environmental damage is shown in its global entirety, will we finally be able to grasp the seriousness of today's crisis in the same way as we would an imminent media collision. We can comprehend how close we came to instant nuclear Armageddon during the Cold War. But a climate Armageddon that spans over a century is yet regarded preposterous. According to Peter Ward, our world's foremost expert on past mass extinctions due to climate change, at our current rate of CO2 buildup, we will begin entering the forcing regimes equivalent to past mass extinctions that nearly wiped out Earth by the year 2100, which basically means that if we do not hold climate change now, by that point in time, it is no longer about the survival of humans, but the survival of cockroaches and microbes. Despite all our talk of mitigation, the tragic fact remains that even if we were able to end all industrial carbon emissions tomorrow, our climate will continue to rapidly rise due to our existing CO2 in the reciprocal feedback cycles which are already set in full motion. Our civilization's only hope is the capture and burial of our existing CO2 through forest protection, reforestation, plankton growth in life-impoverished areas, carbon air capture with sodium hydroxide solution in artificial trees, as well as cooling our climate through cloud seeding to make our oceanic clouds more sun-reflective. Now, despite what some critics suggest, these are solutions with extremely low risk factors, which are fully reversible if deemed unsuccessful. In this film's final chapter on solutions, I strongly propose that these specific geoengineering solutions be included so as to notify our world that there is in fact hope, and that we can put an end to global warming while creating new industries funded through our carbon tax that can offer millions of new jobs worldwide. In my mind, it is clear. Without this revolutionary step towards fixing our climate, mankind faces a terrible, tragic end. And that the only way for this seemingly impossible revolution to take place is for our educated majorities to become fully aware of the facts. Political will is determined only by what the people will allow through majority support. Make no mistake, our very lives are at stake, and this may be our last chance to awaken. Thank you for your time. This has been James Shikata, writer, activist.